he's one of us. He's been friendly to the LA tech community for long before he was mayor. He was being the 42nd mayor, the youngest mayor elected in 100 years, and the first elected Jewish mayor. He's also I'm guessing, the first elected young Jewish mayor who speaks Spanish. So that's incredibly important as well. But Eric was for 12 years, city council in the 13th district of Los Angeles, which for those of you who know is the ultra hip Silver Lake, Echo Park, Atwater Village, way cooler than the West Side. For 12 years he did that. He's a fourth generation Angelino. He grew up in the Valley, went to what is now UCLA's lab school for elementary, went to that really easy school, Harvard Westlake, pre-merger, for those of you who know who the difference. And then went the classic route of, like most LA kids, to Columbia, got a BA and MA there, and then took the easy route to Oxford, where he was a Rhodes Scholar, and eventually became a professor here at USC and at Oxy, teaching economics. In addition to doing all that, being the mayor of Los Angeles, up until early this year, he was a Naval Reserve, in the Naval Reserve as a lieutenant, and also is an accomplished concert pianist. So with all that said, welcome Eric Garcetti, the mayor of Los Angeles.
Eric, how are you? How's everybody doing? Good? Where's the piano?
I think I'm going to trade your chairs, yeah.
Okay. Some sort of Jedi mind trick.
I just want to put you off balance.
Absolutely.
So I can, catch you up. I'm going to give you a little water. Sweet. That may or may not be water.
Thank you. Nice.
So, as you know, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
I have to say that now.
Yes.
We have something in common. We're both Chutinos.
That's right.
Yes.
It's a small tribe, but mighty.
Exactly. My family from Colombia, your family from Mexico. This is a technology group here, lots of venture capitalists, limited partners, lots of startups. I think I have to start with hard-hitting questions.
Yes.
What's on the home screen of your mobile phone?
The home screen, well, I have two, but my favorite...
And don't say Tinder.
Home screen is...
Even though it's a local company.
No,
Whisper.
you mean the picture? I have a picture of my daughter, you probably can't see it, sticking her head through a fence in New York. She got it through, but then she couldn't get it back out. And I think it was a fitting metaphor for tech startups. Sometimes you have to fail forward a little bit and to get ahead, but my very patient, beautiful wife coaxed her out of it. So that's what I look at every single day. But I have, of course, my LA 311 app, which you can use to take a picture of a pothole or graffiti or a light that's off or a couch on the street, and with a GPS in here, just send it to us and we'll fix your stuff. That's what I do for a living.
Excellent. More than 10 million people in the greater Los Angeles, about 4 million people in LA proper. And I think what most of them want to know is why we have no football team.
Well, first of all, we have standards. And so we're not just desperate for any team, and we've seen crime go down every single year since the Raiders left. So I want to be very clear. We stay the safest big city in America, which we are right now in terms of per capita violent crime. We've got some great college teams, and we put together an awesome deal downtown. So hopefully AEG, or after October when their exclusivity runs out, they or somebody else can make a deal with one of the many, many teams looking to probably move. The NFL can't afford not to be in LA. And I think for many decades we didn't have it because we said we weren't going to subsidize a stadium because that's always a money loser. And so the city's been smart about that. But they're realizing that they need us more than we need them. But any great city should have a football team. I'm not spending a ton of hours on it, but I've been very diligent behind the scenes, have some great people working on it. And now it's in the hands of some billionaires, and whether or not they want to move a great team, let's say the Rams here, for instance, which would be really great to
bringing them back.
I'd love to see the Rams come back.
We won't hold you to it in 2014, but at least in your first term.
Yes, thank you.
You've been mayor for 8 months. You were very active in your campaign with the technology community, startup community, which we really appreciate. What I'd love to know is, on a personal level, how has the role of mayor been different than you expected? What has it been like?
You know, I was out with, for drinks with my oldest friend from childhood the other week, and he said, you know, it's just us, nobody's listening, tell me what you don't like about the job. And I said, I honestly can't find anything that I dislike about this job. I love being mayor. I mean, not to say there won't be tough days or really rough challenges that we face, but I love being an executive, a chief executive, because, you know, what I used to do as a council member, and we had great results turning around the neighborhoods that were mentioned in the heart of the city, you know, Atwater Village, Silver Lake, Echo Park, Hollywood. You wait many years to see that. You introduce a motion and you get a study and legislation. When you're mayor, you just pick up the phone and you say, do it. And if that chief executive who runs a department won't do it, you can get rid of him or her, or you can, you know, call them the next day and say, why isn't it done yet? And so there's an immediacy that I really like about it, because I feel the urgency of hopefully 8 years as mayor. You know, that TikTok happens the moment you get there. But we've really, I think, established a new culture at City Hall. I went in, the mayor's, for those of you who don't know the city charter, and there's no reason that you should, we strengthen it to be able to give mayors the power to hire and fire general managers. I have 37 CEOs who run public works, who run the airport, the port, the fire department, et cetera. I was the first mayor to re-interview all of them, ask them to do a memo based on 4 criteria of customer service, jumpstarting our economy, sustainability, and technology and innovation. And then I interviewed each of them for an hour and really went through an extensive process of making sure we have the right people, transitioned some of them. But already, I mean, this town is on fire right now. I'm not the mayor of a place that's 10 below zero right now. I'm not the mayor of a place that's landlocked or that doesn't have a diverse economy. I'm not the mayor of a place that has no manufacturing base or that people don't want to visit. I'm not the mayor of a place without an airport or a port or the largest municipal utility. I'm the mayor of Los Angeles.
Yeah, baby.
And this is our moment. I mean, last weekend, or 2 weekends ago, we had a $3.5 billion weekend just downtown. We had the Metropolis break ground, which is funded with Chinese capital just north of LA Live, a hotel and condos, $1 billion. We had the largest continuous concrete pour in human history, Guinness Book of World Record category that I never knew existed, at the Wilshire Grand, which will be the tallest building west of the Mississippi. And then we got the first grant in 17 years for a subway here in downtown to connect our east-west and our north-south lines. So you can be one seat from Long Beach to Pasadena, the ocean to the east side. That's 40,000 jobs, $3.5 billion in a weekend. This place is ready to take off and not just ride the wave of recovery, but I think actually move it.
So what do you see as the unique benefits of Los Angeles for our community, the tech community? You're talking about capital going into infrastructure, capital going into business development, which obviously matters a lot for the city. I think one thing that we care about is attracting venture capital. My partner, Stephen Dietz, spoke just before you arrived. We graduate more engineers in Los Angeles than anywhere else in the country. We have more engineering schools in the top 25 than anywhere else in the country. Yet venture capital as fund formation has lagged here, and we feel the responsibility to attract capital to venture capitalists, which will flow down to entrepreneurs. What can we do there?
This is water, by the way. It is, I think, a moment for LA to recognize what our strengths are, to do four things. One is to look at existing industries that have fallen behind and to revive them. 2 is to grab this moment of new industries, especially around digital technology, and to harness and to expand it. 3 is to talk about those industries that have been underneath us all the time and nobody's ever talked about. And 4 is to align our workforce with that. So working backwards, we've got to retain those engineers. It's true we graduate more than Stanford and Berkeley combined in LA. We're the only city in the country with 3 top 25 universities, the only city in the world with 3 top 100 global universities right here. But 70% of those engineers traditionally have left LA. Think about our high school students that are here. For Martin Luther King Day this year, I was the Grand Marshal of the parade on Crenshaw Boulevard, and I marched alongside with 20 students, 10 from Crenshaw High School and 10 from Dorsey High School, who are learning coding from the 10th grade on with 2 great teachers. They wrote 34 apps last summer between the 10 of them. We're honored by the White House, and there's no reason we shouldn't be creating a Silicon South to kind of complement Silicon Beach, and think about seeding that in the schools so that we have a workforce ready to, when they graduate without a college degree, $70,000 programming job that's waiting for them in Silicon Beach. Third, we have to look at the way that we can look at the convergence of 3 different types of industries. So those three categories I told you, the old industries, the new industries, the untold industries, all intersect in your question. You've got entertainment, which has fled increasingly Los Angeles and California, which I'm fighting to bring back with filming tax credits. And this has always been the best place to attract storytellers, story makers from around the world. I just came from IMAX's groundbreaking, where they're going to have a new headquarters in the city of LA that we brought. So revive those. And there's other things like aerospace in that bucket. But then the second category, digital technology, we've got a new digital technology firm every 40 hours here now. We just passed the threshold of $1 billion of venture capital last year, third best startup ecosystem. But don't try to be Silicon Valley, be Los Angeles. Be a place that is about the intersection of the content and the technology here. If you want to do fashion, you need to be here. Technology intersecting with content is also about how we use technology to make those old companies do better, not just how we bring them into the newest technology craze. And then the third piece is we've had great industries like healthcare, but to your point, like the financial services industry that is here. Los Angeles is a financial services capital, any way you look at it. But we've never talked about that. We've never had a mayor who's promoted that. We've never had a strategy around that. We've got $1 trillion under management with the Capital Group a few blocks away from here. I had a meeting with Oak Tree and the hedge funds and Capital Group, and first time around a table, they'd never met with a mayor together. And I said, what can we do to promote this as a financial services capital? And to look at the private equity, the venture capital, and attract it here. I think a lot of people have homes here, but they don't have a business here doing that. And increasingly, I want to make that personal connection to bring this kind of sleepy industry that people haven't talked about, a new industry like tech, and existing industries like entertainment, and look at that confluence here. That's, I think, what a mayor can do to spark this revolution to continue.
So one observation I have, if you look at New York, if you look at Seattle, one thing that they've done really well is attract Facebook and Google, and of course in Seattle you have Amazon, to set up major centers there that can keep engineers local. And if the engineers stay local, then they're also available to the startup community. What can we do to attract the bigger companies from Silicon Valley to spend more money and hire more people locally?
Well, a couple things. One, on the engineering front, I brought together the convening power of mayors as strong as any formal power I have. And so besides doing like the leaders of the financial services sector, one of the things I did was to convene all the university presidents and chancellors for the first time at City Hall. So Caltech, UCLA, USC, Cal State LA, and Northridge, Loyola, Occidental, the Community College District, et cetera, to talk about what do we do to have a common strategy to retain these folks, to whether it's an engineer or whether it's an entrepreneur. I mean, look at a guy like Brandon Beck, who graduates from USC, stays in Los Angeles, starts Riot Games. We're just moving them into the city of Los Angeles, 1,500 jobs that didn't exist 5 years ago. By some measures, some people have said they're responsible for low single-digit usage of the internet worldwide, which decreased productivity in workplaces everywhere. But League of Legends championships, here in Staples Center had more people at it than an NBA championship. That's a great, great story that we have to tell. Snapchat, which has the chance, as David was just telling me the other day, of being one of the first great companies outside of Silicon Valley or Seattle. I mean, think about if LA really gets a tentpole company like that here that is a great disruptor. You have to get to know them, you have to interact with them, you have to figure out a way that they know the city of LA cares. But when I talked with Brandon, when I talked to a number of the tech companies that are here, they're increasingly saying, I can't afford not to be in LA. And that's what I want to sell, that if you're a Google, talk to the folks in the Google Venice campus. They say everybody up in Mountain View wants to work out of this office. So for quality of life, would you rather be in Mountain View or a block from the ocean? A place that's bikeable, a cool place with fun restaurants. We have, look at this place that we are in today, downtown, which is full of vacant office space. Is a great place for tech companies. If we rebuild and rethink kind of the floor plans of some of the tall offices and the old warehouses and everything in between, who wouldn't want to live here as an engineer? It's going to be a 24-hour life style that you can have down here in Hollywood and parts of the San Fernando Valley, down by the harbor. I think we've got increasingly an urbanization of tech professionals. Certainly you see that in San Francisco. And Los Angeles is well poised. New York took advantage of that, but I don't intend for us to be any further behind. I want us to kind of leapfrog those places, say, look, we're 40% cheaper than San Francisco at least, and New York. We've got better weather. Just look, I talked with my good friend Bill de Blasio, who's on his 6th snowstorm, and he's only been in office for less than 2 months. When people ask, how can we recruit good talent? We should just have these always December, January, February, invite anybody from around the country to be here, and we can retain a lot of engineers and entrepreneurs.
The absolute truth is we chose February. We have this event every February because we want all the limited partners from Boston, New York, Philadelphia to think, maybe I'll go to LA for a few days.
And I guess the other thing you have to say is it's a great place to invest. I mean, our returns are higher than what's coming out of San Francisco right now for our companies.
Which is phenomenal.
Yep.
I know one of the things I've seen you talk publicly about is infrastructure. Talk about the challenges of transportation infrastructure in particular, and what you think, what impact you can have on solving that.
Well, LA was a place that as we grew, we just grew outwards. We sprawled. And it worked for a long time. All the conspiracy theories that you hear about LA usually aren't true. It's not that the car companies bought up the old red car when we had one of the best public transit systems in the country. We killed it off because it was easier and more fun and quicker to get around on freeways in your own car. Until that moment, we had too many people here and we went, whoops. We didn't build schools where the population was growing because it was easy to stick kids on buses and bus them out to a cheaper place on the outskirts of the city. We didn't build a lot of public parks because everybody had a backyard. Suddenly we're facing a city which has to grow up and be a city. And a very libertarian town, which has worked well for us for a long time, suddenly people need the utility of government doing something, and I think with traffic and transportation, it's probably the strongest. That said, LA has the most ambitious transit construction program in the country. I read an article last year from the New York Post, of all publications. I think the headline was, "Watch out, New York, here comes LA," talking about how soon, next year it'll open, we'll have, I keep figuring out what the expo line should be called. It's either from the sand to the symphony or the beach to the bars. You can go from the coast all the way here downtown. You can go pretty continuously, from Long Beach all the way to Pasadena and beyond. The Wilshire subway is going to be extended. We just broke ground on the Crenshaw line. Look, it's a painful moment to be at that in-between place where it still doesn't get you everywhere you want to go, but increasingly it gets more people to where they want to go. And we're building a city which isn't just about public transit improvements. People are realizing that LA has to be about more self-contained villages. So a Venice, a Silver Lake, a downtown, where they used to maybe just be residential and or restaurants, but no jobs, or jobs and nobody lived there like downtown. Increasingly, people are building neighborhoods that have all of that. So yes, we visit each other across town, but less frequently, and we feel like we don't have to get into a car. We might get into a bike, walk, or take a short car trip to go to something that's already in our neighborhood where we didn't build that before.
One of the things people from outside of LA may not know is there are several parts of greater Los Angeles which are not under your jurisdiction. Santa Monica, I think Glendale, Culver City. What challenges are unique to your role as mayor of a place that has a patchwork that you don't fully govern?
If we were a tech company, we would have failed by now, just given the construction politically of this place. On the horizontal axis, we have a county of 10 million people, metropolitan area of 12 or 15, depending on how you count it, which has, just in that county of 10 million, 88 cities. So there's one big one, LA City, which is 4 million. Long Beach is the next biggest, but it drops down to 500,000. And then there's 86 other cities that go down to as few as 37 people that supposedly live in a couple of our industrial towns. And the first thing that I did, realizing that my power wasn't just about running the city of LA, but it was about uniting this region, was I invited those 87 other mayors to come together for a meeting. Again, this is the power of convening. And 66 of them were able to show up on a single day for the first time in LA history to talk all morning long about the things that ignore borders: economic development, traffic, crime, environmental policy. And we've really created a strong working group out of that. Layer on top of that horizontal axis, a vertical axis that has 26 different levels of government. So our school district is autonomous. Our community college district is an autonomous level of government. Air quality, water quality, the cities, the county. If you have a rat and roach problem or a mosquito problem, we have an independent government called vector control. So if you're trying to solve problems commonly, you have to kind of break down informally these formal walls that we've put up between us. That said, like I just talked to somebody who's starting a third tech startup in the history. Somebody found Shopzilla and another company in El Segundo. And they're like, that's in the city of LA, isn't it? I said, no, technically, it's, it's not. It's just over the border. It's like this little barnacle on the whale of LAX, that's right there riding along, and we love it because, look, start up in El Segundo. I'd love if you were in LA, and anything I can do to bring you in the city is good, but I bet 80% of your employees are going to come from the city of LA. Elon Musk and SpaceX is in Hawthorne, which isn't in the city of LA, but Elon cares a lot about the policies that we do here in LA, like traffic, because that's his workforce, and I love that he's paying the best aerospace engineers in the world, and most of them live in my town. So we've got to stop being so territorial about one city and the next. So even if I'm not the mayor of Culver City or Beverly Hills or Santa Monica, this is one town.
And you're able to coordinate, you're able to play that role.
Increasingly so, yeah, absolutely.
Talk a little bit, you touched on education, and that's something that's very interesting to me, is how we bring computers into the schools and how we make sure that the next generation, particularly inner city, have computer skills so we don't create a digital divide.
Yep.
What are you doing? What is the city doing? What can be done? And is there anything the people in this room could get involved with to try and give back from the skills that exist and the capital that exists here?
Absolutely. I'm determined to, Los Angeles is not a city on the decline. It's quite the contrary by any measure. More people live here. A record number of people study here. A record number of people visited here last year. #1 tourist destination now in America. 43% of the world's goods come in through of the country's goods come in through our port. It's the #1 airport in the world for flights that begin and end in an airport. So we've got all these amazing assets. So we're not a city like what Detroit has gone through or Pittsburgh did. What we have to do, though, is make sure that that prosperity that is here hits more people. And I'll give you 2 stats real quick. Our high-wage jobs in Los Angeles are on the increase, and our low-wage jobs are decreasing relative to that. But our poverty rate is up 5 years after the recession started. When I tried to square those things together, how with more high-wage jobs could we have more poverty? It means that a lot of people are growing up here aren't getting those jobs. And so to get to the education system and to invest in coding, in entrepreneurialism, which, in this town we have the highest rate of entrepreneurship in the country. More than 1 out of 200 of our residents are entrepreneurs. To look at the global assets that we have of over 200 languages spoken, over 150 countries of origin, the most diversity ever assembled in one place. We have to bring that into the high schools early on and figure out a way to create that pipeline. 2 ways people here could get involved if you're in the LA area or even outside. This coming summer, we're going to have 10,000 youth jobs for the first time. Last summer, we turned away 10,000 kids who wanted to work during the summer from our neediest neighborhoods. And we said, sorry, there's no jobs for you. And I said, how could we do that in this town of so much? So anybody who's come through my door, a CEO, private sector rep, even people from the public sector, I've been saying, how many jobs can you give to some LA youth this coming summer? And if you're interested, please let me and or my staff know, because we'd love to have a lot of them in the tech sector. And for $2,000, you can change a kid's life, literally, and make sure they get ahead in the summer. Parallel to that, we're going to do something called the Summer of Learning. Rahm Emanuel did something like this in Chicago, but we're essentially going to use the summertime as a time to train young people to get ahead by the time they start school in the fall instead of fall behind. And they'll earn digital badges, and people have technical skills in helping us program some of this stuff. We essentially, almost like Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts give you badges for certain things you do, we're going to do the same things with education, with a STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math curriculum, with job readiness, where you can earn digital badges that you can put in kind of a digital resume that the city of LA will be the holder of, so that people can take this to future employers. They can have this when they graduate, when they're applying for college, and LA can be known for a place that uses every spare minute we have to build our skills base, to get modern, and to help young people connect with those jobs of the future.
One thing worth my mentioning, if people in the room don't know, my partner Steven set up something called LA Tech. Mm-hmm. And what the initiative is to reach out to all the campuses in town, connect them with startups, because the hypothesis is, if you can get an internship when you're actually in university, yep, you're much more likely to stay afterwards because you have that connection point. So that's something we're really trying to promote in the city.
That's great.
So final question. You know that we had a special guest who was supposed to appear after you. The special guest was Snoop Dogg.
He forgot. No.
I think I saw him out behind the building. I want to say he was vaping, but it didn't look like vaping. Do you want to rap for us? Do you have any talents? Do you have any skills?
If we had a piano, I could play that. I will not impose any rapping on you, nor nor my previous career as an 8th grade break dancer.
There you
I
go.
think this is too nice of a crowd to impose that on them.
Well, what I wanted to say is during the campaign, you spent so much time with the tech community. You really seemed to understand our issues. None of your predecessors really did put in that effort. I think I speak for everyone when we say we're so glad that you won the campaign, that you're our mayor, and we hope you will continue to champion not only all of the causes of LA, but for us in particular, LA Tech. So thank you.
Well, I appreciate that. And one last plug that I'll say to everybody: if you have an idea, a product, venture capital, a story that you want to test someplace in the world, test it here in LA. This is the greatest platform that's been assembled, I think, in human history. You have the most diverse economy, the most diverse population, the intersection of United States, Latin America, and the Pacific Rim. And if we can be helpful as the city, not just to get your business here, but if you have a product you want to test on a great platform, we've got a monopoly and really crappy products in government. You've got great products and you need more market share. So whether it's a parking app or something to improve the quality of life, or using some of the data that we have that will be able to be applied to improve the quality of people's lives, come to us and we will open up city government for you to experiment, test, and try that stuff. I want LA to have the reputation as a great government for tech, as a great place for tech people to live, as a place where the ecosystem is so strong that people can't afford not to be here, and as a place that's innovating and changing our lives from here. We always have done that from Los Angeles, but I think that intersection of tech and content, which is unlike anything else in the world, this is our moment, and I want you to feel at home here. So whether you're lucky enough to be from here, or if you're not, think of us as your second home. Thank you.
That was great. That was awesome. Thanks so much.
Oh, and one last thing. I don't know if Peter Marks is out here, but I hired our first chief innovation technology officer, brought him in he's been a tech entrepreneur, an LA native, just come from Qualcomm. Where's Peter?
You want to raise your hand?
Come up here, Peter, so they can see you on my way out. Come up. He's on the phone right there. Please let Peter know he's going to be kind of at the cutting edge of intersecting with everybody in the tech sector, and a great, great guy. Appreciate it, Peter. Thank you.
Great.